Do you want to play Chixia, but you're tired of getting bonked out of your skill? Just add one Discord mod looking ass fella to your team and all your problems will be solved. Yuanwu is an all-rounder who specializes in breaking the enemy's stagger bar. As a gauntlets user, he has access to the Originite Type 4 gauntlets, which not only boasts a great substat for maximizing his vibration damage, but also procs the 5-piece rejuvenation Sonata effect, allowing him to replace Verina and Baijin as your team-wide buffer support. Since he scales off defense, he also doesn't mind the low base attack of a 3-star weapon. But since he lacks buffing capabilities in his kit and sequences, many hesitate to use him in that healer support slot. Why then do we want to pick him over Verina to pair with Chixia and Changli? Let's look at each character's pros and cons. Chixia has pretty good damage for a 4-star. Her long-range single-target skill is great against bosses, especially flying ones such as the chicken and the mosquito. Her AoE ult is great for clearing groups of minions, and it can deal huge amounts of liberation damage very quickly and without needing to swap out like Encore does. However, she loses a ton of damage if her skill is interrupted, and it cannot be swap cancelled. Changli can deal main DPS levels of damage while being played as a sub DPS, and she has a great outro that gives a huge buff to fusion and liberation damage. However, this outro buff is lost when the DPS switches out, meaning it has poor synergy with DPSs like Encore that need to swap cancel their liberation damage. She also has many interruptible moves that need to be swap cancelled, meaning she needs a teammate to swap cancel with. Yuanwu can very quickly stagger a boss, as his lightning infused basics deal triple the normal amount of vibration damage, and his outro deals vibration damage equal to a large percentage of the enemy's stagger bar. He grants team-wide interruption resistance with his lightning infused state, and he can either be played on field for extended periods of time or in a quick swap rotation. However, he needs a decent amount of on-field time in order to build his concerto. When we put these characters together, we start to see some of these cons disappear. By putting Chixia with Changli, we now have a main DPS whose ult synergizes well with Changli's outro buff. And now, by adding Yuanwu to the team, we now fulfill Changli's requirement for a quick swap partner, and by overlapping his field time with Changli's using swap cancels, we reduce the negative impact of his field time requirement. Most importantly, he provides much needed interruption resistance for both Changli and Chixia, and by staggering the enemy faster, he can consistently give Chixia a window of time to use her skill freely without fear of being interrupted. What's great about this team is that, with the rotation I'll show later, you can almost guarantee on most Tower of Adversity bosses that they are staggered or almost staggered by the time Chixia takes the field. The team is also great at parrying, as Changli and Yuanwu constantly put out hitboxes with their attacks, letting you stagger bosses even faster. If you're lucky enough to have Yuanwu's S4, you'll also gain a huge shield whenever he ults, making up for his lack of healing. Now, how do we play Yuanwu in Quick Swap? Yuanwu has this somewhat hidden move called Thunderweaver, which deals a lot of damage, generates a lot of concerto, and most importantly, is a longer move that is great for swap canceling. To trigger this move, you must first be in the lightning infused state. Then, if you input basic attack after a heavy attack, or after a parry, you'll do a Thunderweaver. His dodge counter is also a slightly enhanced Thunderweaver that does more damage and generates more concerto. Now, let's go over the rotation for this team. We'll start our rotation on Chixia, using her tap skill to generate 25 bullets, then immediately cancelling it into an Inferno Rider. We'll swap cancel the last hit into Yuanwu, who will automatically do his basic too. Make sure to hit the enemy with the basic here in order to proc the rejuvenation buff, then use the bell. Swap cancel into Changli, and immediately ult and forte. Swap into Chixia, who will automatically do basic 3 and continue into basic 4, bringing us up to 36 bullets. When you swap cancel into Chixia here, make sure you do it after she completely disappears from using Inferno Rider, otherwise she will start with a basic 1 and it'll take an extra couple of seconds to reach 30 bullets. Now that we have 30 bullets, we could start a Daka Daka, using all our bullets and ending with the final shot. Then alt. Make sure to alt after regenerating one charge of her skill, because when she regains a charge of her skill from her S4, the cooldown is also reset. If you alt too early, you'll end up with one charge and 9 seconds until the next, instead of the full 2 charges if you wait a little bit longer. After alting, do another 30 bullet Daka Daka Boom Boom in order to max our concerto. That concludes our opener, and now we can go into the main loop of the rotation. Use Chixia's tap skill to put her into a slide, then immediately swap cancel into Changli's intro skill, using True Sight charge and then her skill. Now we want to switch to Yuanwu here, but if we swap to him now, he'll spawn in mid-air and have to use a plunge attack to get back to the ground. Instead, swap cancel Changli's skill into Chixia, bringing us back to the ground. Then immediately swap to Yuanwu, which will spawn him on the ground. This allows us to immediately use his ult and then his forte. If you don't have a full forte bar at this point, that means you didn't stay inside Yuanwu's circle enough during the opener. Since Yuanwu generates forte from his coordinate attacks, which only trigger if you're inside his circle, try to stay inside it as much as possible during the opener, to make sure that you have enough forte here. Swap cancel his forte into Changli's True Sight Conquest, making sure to wait for all 3 feathers to land before using her skill. Swap cancel that back into Yuanwu's basic 2, then use a heavy attack, then press attack again to do a Thunderweaver. Swap cancel back into Changli's True Sight Conquest, then use Inferno Rider. Swap cancel the last hit back into Yuanwu, using the heavy attack into Thunderweaver again. Swap cancel into Chixia this time, using her tap skill cancelled by Inferno Rider. Swap cancel the last hit of Inferno Rider back into Yuanwu, and at this point, you should be very close to max concerto. Spam basic attack until you reach max concerto, then use Bell, swap cancelling into Changli's intro skill. Use True Sight charge, and this time, plunge to the ground and use her forte. Cancel the forte after the last hit with their ult, then use forte again. Swap cancel into Chixia's intro skill, then use a 60 bullet Daka Daka Boom Boom. Ult, then use another 30 bullets, then tap skill and outro to Changli, starting the loop over again. Here's the rotation again. Here's a few tips for using this rotation. It's okay to interrupt Chixia's skill with a dodge, especially in the opener when the enemy is guaranteed not to be staggered. The most important part is to always shoot a total of 30 forte bullets before using her ult, in order to build up 30 stacks of her inherent skill. It's okay to use multiple skills to max out the buff, and ulting with only a partial buff isn't the end of the world. Remember that if you've shot 30 bullets already, you could dodge a couple times and even ult before casting Boom Boom. If you don't have a skill charge remaining for the slide trick when outroing to Changli, you can achieve a similar effect using her basic 3, which has a longer animation than her other basics. If the enemy attacks during the quick swap part of the rotation, it's better to use Yuanwu to either parry the attack or dodge it. Both options lead into a Thunderweaver, so it's up to you whether you want to parry, which staggers the enemy faster, or dodge, which generates more concerto. For this team, I'm using the Molten Rift set for both Chixia and Changli, and the Rejuvenation set for Yuanwu. This is, however, a pretty expensive setup to have, since it requires you to farm 2 Molten Rift sets. The Lingering Tunes set actually works pretty well for Chixia, boasting similar or possibly even higher damage numbers than Molten Rift, due to the extended duration of Chixia's field time and the awkwardness of fitting Infernal Rider into the rotation. The Moonlit Echoes set on Changli does lose a little damage when compared to Molten Rift, but it is a good budget set, since most people already have a good Moonlit set lying around. Both Chixia and Changli are using the standard 5-star weapons. Yuanwu's build is also somewhat expensive. Since vibration damage scales off of damage dealt, you want to be building crit, electro damage, and defense on him, meaning you'll need to farm completely different rejuvenation echoes from those that Verina and Baizhi use in order to maximize the stagger dealt by his basic attacks. You'll also want to level him up to 90 to increase his base defense, and also level up his forte and traces, and optionally also his ult. And of course, he's using the 3-star Originate Gauntlets. How well does this team do in terms of damage compared to its Verina counterpart? Comparing the overall DPS of the Yuanwu rotation to the CN Verina team rotation, we can see that we lose around 10% of the damage. However, this is assuming perfect rotations with no enemy attacks. Keep in mind that dodging on Yuanwu actually speeds up the rotation, while dodging on the Verina team is almost always a DPS loss. Also, the Yuanwu team lets Chixia get her skill off much more consistently during the enemy stagger window, making this team much more practical against the more aggressive bosses, and also much more comfortable to play. Even with the lower DPS numbers, we could still easily clear hazard tower floors on the first few tries. In conclusion, Yuanwu solves all the issues that the Chixia Changli team has, and makes the team much more comfortable to play. I was able to use this team to beat every hologram at max difficulty, as well as easily full Dorito the last few tower cycles, showing that it does not lag in DPS. Using this team also means you could free up Verina for your other teams. This team trumps the Verina team in terms of consistency, making it, in my opinion, the best all-around Chixia team.